It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yes, your feel-good breakfast show live, large and in charge on SABC3. Thank you very much for joining us on this Monday morning. Now, do you remember that 90s hit song from the rap group Salt and Pepper? That perfectly summarizes our topic with Dr. Eve today. It was all like, let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about
all the good things and the bad things that could be. Let's talk about sex.
Oh, that's solo by
That
Zoe.
song really
Can you
left me
believe it?
hanging.
We're going to be talking all about that because we know how important it is, intimacy in a relationship, and our relationship expert, Dr. Eve, is here to share her expert opinion and advice on this topic.
That's right. Well, first, let's hear from our Expresso couples, what they have to say about the importance of talking before being intimate with each other.
I'm Miles,
I'm Alexa.
and we've known each other for 6 years, but dating for almost 2.
Hi, my name is Cameron.
Hi, my name is Quaid, and we've been together for 3 years.
What is the importance of talking before being intimate with each other?
But I think the importance of it, just so that each couple member knows what they're about to be doing. I think that would be important.
Oh, that's super important. It will be a better experience for everyone involved if you have an idea of what people like and what they don't like and what makes them comfortable and what makes them uncomfortable. Because at the end of the day, you're just up for having a good time. So you want to make sure that it's good for you and good for your partner.
I think the main thing to talk about is to know what the other person's limits are. But that's also not like an extremely direct way of dealing with it. So it's just about going with the flow, being natural, not being too mechanistic, but still getting the other person's consent, of course.
I think that if you talk to someone beforehand, it can really help to ease up a lot of those fears, a lot of those concerns, both physical and other connections. So yeah, I think basically if you do that, you're just essentially setting yourself up for proper, solid, good consent, and also just being able to understand where people's boundaries lie.
Well, thank you very much to our Expresso couples, and of course, as responsible broadcasters, we must warn all our viewers out there that the subject matter we are about to discuss does contain mature content, so if there are any young ones watching, please be careful. Dr. Eve, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, this is my topic.
Absolutely.
It's your topic.
So the importance of talking about being intimate with each other, whether it's for the first time or the umpteenth time, what is important about talking about it first?
Well, people struggle so much. You know, I work as a couple and sex therapist, and people think they're going to come to my rooms and they're going to get tips on how to be sexual or how to fix up some kind of sexual difficulty. But actually, when I look at them, as I'm looking at the two of you on a couch, and I realize they've never really spoken about sexuality because it's such a difficult thing to do. The language is difficult. We don't often have the language. Where do we get it from? Maybe people get it from pornography or from friends, but seldom from parents. So it becomes a very awkward conversation. So people are usually just jumping in without a condom, and they're engaging in this thing called intimacy or sexuality, and it oftentimes isn't as satisfying or as healthy as what it could be because we're not talking about it. It's very difficult and it's very awkward. Also, people think, well, if we talk about it, we're going to kind of spoil the moment. I don't know what that means. And it leads to, you know, big problems because that's why we have so many unintended pregnancies and STIs and HIV. And also, for me, most importantly, besides the health aspect, is we're not having satisfactory sexuality. We're not having a satisfactory sense of intimacy with each other because a lot of intimacy comes from talking about how I'm feeling in the moment, talking about what I'm wanting in the moment. That's what makes sexuality so rich and so fantastic. It's not really the act of it that's fabulous. It's the talking about it, which is so fabulous.
Well, you mentioned now that there are many layers to intimacy. It's not necessarily doing the deed.
Yes.
You know, how are other ways that couples can be intimate?
Well, I love online, obviously. So you want to start by using technology to your advantage by doing a lot of cyber flirting with each other. I'm not talking about cheating here, but with each other, teasing, because a lot of people find it really comfortable to talk about what they want online. And then when they get face-to-face, there's a much more comfortable feel, like, okay, I know this person is in the mood to be having a little playfulness with me today. And so it becomes almost a segue into let's get together in a physical sense as well. So people need to be expressing what it is that I'm enjoying, what is it that really arouses me, what turns me on, what are the things I don't like. And the most important thing that we really get stuck with, and it's very political right now because we're aware of it, is something called consent. So men don't like to be rejected. So men are given this terrible task of initiating any kind of sexual intimacy. And yet there's a hesitation because am I going to be rejected? And the woman holds all the power, which of course she should not be doing. So it becomes difficult to know, how do I talk about this thing when, in fact, the woman may very well want to be sexual, but is she going to give consent and then being given a bad reputation? Does the guy know when she's giving consent? So consent has to be an absolute essential part of talking about sexuality.
All right, Dr. Eve, thank you so much. As we've just realized now that this talking about sex conversation can go into very, very many different directions.
Yeah.
So maybe we'd like to get your viewpoint on it. Give us a call on 083-9133-728 and tell us about the importance in your life of talking about sex. We'll be back again with Dr. Eve on the hot seat very, very shortly.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
From potatoes or potatoes, no matter what you call them. When it comes to talking about sex, this can go into very many different directions. That's why we have our relationship expert, Dr. Eve, in the house, who's answering questions about intimacy and sex in relationships.
That's right. Well, before we continue, we're going to head on over to our Expresso couples to ask them what's the best way to keep the spark alive.
What's the simplest way to keep the spark in a relationship alive?
I think maybe mini adventures, and by that I don't actually mean a huge thing. I don't mean going necessarily to a fancy hotel or amazing destination. It's just like something little that you might, not do anymore later on in a relationship. And sometimes that little adventure is literally going, hey, let's go out and, go for a picnic. Let's actually buy stuff and go for a picnic somewhere cool, or let's go camping. It's inexpensive,
Don't let it die. And I think you can keep that flame burning by just constantly being into each other,
Yeah.
Like never stop that sort of butterfly feeling.
We were once in a shopping center and we caught like the 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock movie, which I've never done before in my life.
Spontaneously.
We were the only ones, and it was a scary movie. We got like the whole cinema to ourselves, biggest bowls of popcorn. It was super exciting, actually. It was nice.
Always keep it cute. Yeah. Always edit yourself.
Oh, wow, they're great ideas, eh? Movie nights and all kinds of things. But is that the right kind of way of keeping the spark alive in your relationship, Dr. Eve?
You've got to accept that the spark's going to die.
Spark to die.
True.
It's going to die. And I think that's part of the problem, is that people expect that spark is always going to be there. There is nothing that can ever replace that first initial sparkiness when two people get together. That is unique. That's what the brain craves, is that incredible feeling of being alive. So you're never going to get it again, but you get something different. You go into a feeling of familiarity and comfortability and friendship and just sexuality that feels very good and intimate for you. So if you want to make things interesting, or you still want to have some kind of attraction to your partner, or still be in the mood to be sexual with the same partner, the brain craves a few things which are essential. One of them is novelty, just like you're hearing from our couples. The other one is the surprise factor, and then the unexpected. So as you heard one of them say, going into a movie at 10 o'clock in the morning with something they'd never done, suddenly you feel kind of naughty and you feel like you're doing something different, and the brain then feels very sparky and the chemicals start flowing, and that kind of spreads down to the rest of your body, and you think, okay, this is fun. So couples have a responsibility to keep being interesting as people and to be bringing in unexpected surprises, because that's what keeps the interest in each other going. Because the usual way, the automatic way, is we get settled into a routine, which is nice, but it isn't sparky.
But
It's
also,
not
like,
sparky.
talk about it first before you start bringing out the 50 Shades. I'm just saying.
Definitely, you got to talk about that. I think that's really important,
Yeah.
because that's where consent comes into it again. Don't think by just being the kinky kind of person that's going to bring spark. That could actually kill your entire relationship, because the person's just like not interested in that.
Yeah.
So you have to keep talking about things that are really pleasurable, besides intimate and loving and sweet and respectful.
If I may just say that our lines are still open, 083-9133-728. I wanted to ask another question.
Go for
A friend of mine calls it the chase.
Yes.
Saying that relationship sparks start dying after that first physical, intimate, I guess, interaction.
Right.
And then, hence the chase is over. Are we then saying that couples should hold off that first intimate interaction for as long as possible, perhaps until marriage, perhaps 10 years after marriage?
It's such a great question because a lot of young people struggle with that, Kat. And I know when I teach at the university in Cape Town, and one of my students told me about this 3-month rule, one of the women, because the women are always the one who get the reputation. And it's like, okay, if we hold off for 3 months, we have a better chance of catching the guy, because then he's going to be, kind of running around with his tongue hanging out for 3 months, and by that time, he is going to give me a commitment, and then once we do this deed, then I've caught him. Doesn't work that way. I mean, it's kind of a horrible thing to actually do.
Well, it's a theory by Steve Harvey in Think Like a Man, right? So he
Yes,
says in his
exactly.
book,
3 months.
if he waits around for
Exactly.
3 months, then he's worthy.
No, don't do that. It's just a horrible thing to do because the spark's going to go in any case. And then, you've got this emotional, she's caught some feelings. We've spoken about catching feelings before. Or he's caught some feelings, and maybe he's depending on catching feelings, but using sexuality as a hook for men, that's insulting to men, right? I don't think that's nice.
I think so.
I don't think it's nice.
Well, I think a question I'd love for you to answer in a little while is, when the spark, let's say the spark's died down, how do you know it's time to save the relationship or to reignite the spark? I'd love to hear your thoughts on
Oh,
that.
that's heavy.
Yes, well, if you've got
So
a
proud.
question, give us a call. Our number is 083-9133-728.
Only you can make my day. It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Alrighty, Monday morning, and we are live, large and in charge on your Feel Good Breakfast Show here in the Republic of Feel Good.
I just feel like it needs a little train
love
there.
doing that, love
Well,
doing
listen, before the break, I asked Dr. Eve, as we're talking about keeping the spark alive, when do you know when it's time to end the relationship or reignite the spark? Before we get the doctor's answer, let's first head on over to our Expresso couples.
Do you think talking about sex in society is still taboo?
Oh, shouldn't be, but I think in a lot of areas it is.
In certain areas, yes. Even though in advertising it's vastly and prominently there, it's still something that's taboo.
I think the funny thing is that we're exposed to sex so much, or at least sexualized things so much, but the fundamentals are missing. Like, you can pick up a magazine, you can watch a movie, there'll be sex scenes in it, everything. But we don't really talk about, healthcare relating to sex. That's actually more taboo than going to watch a completely, sex-filled movie.
Ridiculous.
How is it that it's more taboo to talk to your friends or to your family or community or partner especially about basic healthcare? If you have sexual preferences, no matter what it is, it's so difficult for people to actually talk about that kind of stuff that really matters. It's like we're doing all the big, flashy stuff out there, but we're completely missing the fundamentals.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much to our Expresso couples for giving us their opinion there. We've got Vivian on the line calling us from Cape Town. Good morning, Vivian.
Hi, good morning. It's Vivian here.
Yes,
Hey.
thank you so much for your call. What's your question or your comment?
Now, my comment is to keep a relationship alive, it's just by holding hands whenever you go out,
Yeah.
besides picnics and stuff. But what I found very effective is whenever I pass my wife, I touch her. I'm not going to say where, but I
Is
And that's
she in the
all keeping
background
things
there?
alive. And we're both over 60 already. And I mean, we're married about 30 years now.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's the best way to keep the relationship alive.
We've got applause in the control room. We can put it out here as well. That is just amazing.
Yeah,
Just
simple thing like holding hands and even kissing in public also doesn't have to look at your wife.
Vivian.
Not every time. That keeps it alive. And
Pearls.
touching her wherever she passes.
There we go. Wow, Vivian, 30 years in the game and still standing strong. So what do you think of Vivian's advice?
What I like is the subtle nuance of what he's saying is that he still sexualizes the relationship. It's not just a friendship affection where he's just touching her, like holding hands as in friendship. You heard him say, I touch her, but I'm not going to say where. So he's still alluding to the fact that he still sees her as a sexual person and he's still feeling sexual towards her, which is going to keep that spark alive, that they haven't lost the sexual eroticism and gone into just a friendship situation.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Hashtag bamba umuntu wakho, you know?
Thank you for sharing that.
Hold your
Maria.
person. Hold your person. All right.
Dr. Eve, I feel like we're avoiding my question.
No,
here.
it's such a hard one. It's such a beautiful one.
Okay.
Ask
Yeah.
it again. Ask it again. Zee.
Okay, well, I want to know, when the spark dies, how do you know that's the end of the relationship or it's now time to reignite the spark?
So people have to consider expectations around spark. As I said earlier, if you're going to expect that spark at that high level is going to keep going, you're going to be really disappointed. And then people, unfortunately, Zoe, too many people bail when they lose that initial spark. And that's a time when you really want to sit with it and say, okay, are there other things about this person which are attractive, which could cause a different spark? Maybe it's not going to be a traditional sexual spark, but it's going to cause me to really like this person, feel alive, feel comfortable, feel I can really have something that makes me feel safe and very excited about life when I'm with this person. And that then becomes the spark. Of course, one has to still maintain a physical appreciation of that person and a physical attraction. But even if you're not jumping bones all the time, that doesn't mean the spark is gone. You want to look out for other red flags that tell you that the spark is gone. When you know in your gut and in your heart, in your throat, I don't feel comfortable, as we speak about so often, Katlego, then you know those red flags are going to kill any spark. Then you duck, then you leave. You listen to the red flags and you go, no matter what sparkiness you feel.
Just, I picked up on what you're saying now. I've heard of chucking bones, but I've never heard of jumping bones. What is jumping bones?
I'm trying to be really delicate because we're on national television.
Right, okay. Well, we'll hold back on that thought for a second. And then we're going to be discussing what one of our Expresso couples, the guy said he can't believe it's more taboo to talk about sexual health and things like consent than it is to go and watch a overly sexualized movie, which is a very interesting perspective.
Absolutely.
And we'll also keep our lines open on 083-913-3728. Dr. Eve back on the hot seat very shortly.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
All right, back on the hot seat with Dr. Eve. And the topic we're discussing today, sex, in fact, provoked the attention of one of our guests this morning. This is Montel. Montel is currently on tour with Casper de Vries, Dr. Eve. And Montel wanted to ask a question. Good morning and thanks for joining us, Montel.
Thank you so much, and you're beautiful.
So are you, thank you.
Jy's pragtig ook. Dr. Eve, is dit moontlik om voort te bring sonder die daad? Met ander woorde in 'n laboratorium. As ek en Bizay byvoorbeeld nou 'n kind wil hê, can we klap dit aan mekaar in 'n laboratorium?
Very relevant question there from Montel. Would you like to answer it, Dr. Eve?
So you want to have a lab baby
Yes.
together?
Is it possible in this country yet?
So are we talking about in vitro fertilization here?
Ek weet nie waarvan jy nou praat nie, maar ek
Okay,
soos
verduidelik vir
Elton
my.
John. Remember Elton John, my darling, and David?
Yes,
they
yes,
had
they had
a
a
kiddie.
baby. Okay.
I want that
You want
with Bizay.
Ekverstaan, dis
So
wat
they
jy
need
wil
to
hê.
get a
So can we
Ja.
do it here? Of is dit nog te vroeg?
Nog te vroeg to be able to have it. So you according to the Constitution, and because it is tomorrow, Human Rights Day, right? So that is your right. So you can go off and say, it is my right to be able to adopt, and our Constitution allows it, the country allows it, that two men can adopt a child together as well
Yeah,
as
but I
two
want to
women.
make a child.
You want to make a
Alright.
child. Oh,
I'm sure we can find you more
You know
information
what?
online about
it's not,
that.
Maar
and
ek gaan staan met my plakkaatjie môre.
Jy
Do
kan
that.
maar, jy kan maar.
Dr. Eve, let's take a
That's
call,
a
shall we?
physiological challenge.
Let's take a call. Let's take a call right now. Who's joining us on the line? Sandy, good morning.
Hello, it's Sandy from Cape Town.
Hey,
Thank
Sandy.
you, Sandy. What's your question or your comment?
Besides that, I'm almost 70, being married, being divorced, and my only comment is the outer course is better than the intercourse.
Oh, wow.
Sandy.
I mean, how about that? Tweet that. The outer course is more important than intercourse. What is your understanding
Well,
of that, Dr.
you
Eve?
kind of refer to it as the hunt, which is, I know, is a little different because the hunt for men is a big thing, but that's before you even get to the outer courses. But it's kind of part of the outer course, the kind of chasing and the fun around that. Outer course, Sandy, it's interesting because I was reading an article just last night about sexuality in aging people and how it is way more rampant than it is in younger people like Zoe's age. And they asked, like, what are the things that are satisfying for you in terms of sexual exchanges? And what they said, what the people who were your age were saying, is what you're saying, is that the kissing, the cuddling, the wonderful sexual play that doesn't have to include the intercourse, the penetration part, is what really keeps them interested in still being sexual. So the outer course, unfortunately, always falls away. The kissing, the playfulness, which people, and especially women, really need to feel fully aroused. So you keep doing that. The other thing is that a lot of older people prefer that because by that time there are some sexual difficulties or dysfunctions that happen, and so the traditional intercourse can't happen. So you just become very creative and you use outer course. Just whatever makes you happy, and as long as you are using safety as well, because intercourse does happen to slip in every now and then. So make sure you've got condoms too.
Thank you very much, Sandy. And then just maybe finally, before we close down
Yes.
the segment, Dr. Eve, if we could talk about the importance of talking about sexual health and ensuring that your partner is safe.
Yeah, that's where it comes to the difficulty with communication, and we don't even want to talk about sexuality. The importance of talking about sexuality, for me, it's a part of like your modern dating. As you begin to engage with each other, you kind of want to put some boundaries down and say, I'm a condom person, I'm a lube person. Do you know your status? I know my status. And there is no love without the glove.
There we go.
No love without the glove. Woo!
Dr.
Thank you
Eve,
for that, Dr. Eve.
thank you
Are
so
you
much.
ready, Montel?
If it doesn't fit, quit.
Well, there you have it. This is your Feel Good
Okay,
Breakfast Show. Dr. Eve, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And of course, Montel, it was great having you here as
Thank
well.
you, my daughter. Yeah,
Montel promised that
prachtig.
he was gonna sing us out of the segment with that. Let's talk about sex. Because you're a singer. 1, 2, 3.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's do it, not talk, baby. Humpy, bumpy, bum, bum.